How's it going? Welcome back. It's Jonathan. Okay, so in this video, I know what you're thinking. Wait a second. I've seen that chart before. Yes, that's right. This is the Bitcoin halving chart. This is what every single crypto enthusiast will send you when they say that this market is going higher. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't disagree with them. The video that I did last week was about my hypothesis on what could occur next year based purely on psychology and cycles. Now, that was just a hypothesis. I'm not suggesting that it's going to occur or not occur. However, the way that the mind is perceiving this cycle is almost as if it were a guarantee than if it were a probability. And that is just why I came out with an alternative hypothesis. So take it or leave it, choice is yours. This is now suggesting that this market is going to run higher. Now, this is Bitcoin halving cycle. It is one cycle to another cycle overlaid on top of each other. And what we can see here is that based on historical data, the current wave higher is much stronger than it has been in the past. Okay, so that is one thing to note, and that is an interesting thing to note because it is too far higher than where it should be based on historical data. Is that suggesting that this time is different and that this time is going to go higher? Look, I'm not here to say, I'm just here to look at the evidence and present an alternative option, okay? So there's been one thing that I haven't done for a while. I've been super busy working on the Game Mastery program, and that is go back to this 90-day Bitcoin cycle last time. And there is a reason for watching this video, okay? I'm going to go into another 4-year cycle, which is probably going to be super interesting for you. So if you might want to stick around for that one, okay? I'm going to show you how to pinpoint the top in Bitcoin, okay? So what we have here is we have the chart last time, and this was based on the 90-day Bitcoin cycle, and it was expiring. I had a hypothesis of it expiring, or a time frame, between the end of November and basically the start of December. It hasn't done anything, so we still have until the end of December for it to come to fruition. However, if nothing occurs, basically this cycle has inverted higher, which means that you could say that there's another larger cycle if you're a cycles guy. There's another larger cycle pushing the cycle higher, and that would just basically invalidate the cycle. This would actually be the first time since I started tracking this that I was not able to locate a low point in the cycle. Okay, and we've been tracking this cycle for a very long time. Okay, this 90-day Bitcoin cycle, I started tracking it back in 2015. You can go back to the very start and track it all the way through. I got lazy, so I didn't track it from out there. But this would be the very first time that this cycle has not produced a low in this time frame. Okay, so that is something to be watching. And by a low, I do mean a sizable low. I would have liked, like a decline over several days to several weeks to have occurred. So what this means, if we just take a look at this right now, back when we were looking at this, let me get a pencil, okay? Pencil. We had our starting point of the cycle 1, and we had a starting point of cycle 2. We then had our midpoint of cycle 1, which is the green one, and we had the midpoint of cycle 2. If you're not familiar with the cycle work, go back to watch other videos to understand how it works. But basically, we have a start, we have an end, and we have a midpoint. This is a simple cycle, okay? So we got the 50% range, if you understand that, or Fibonacci or whatever. We got the 50% range of that cycle length. Now, the midpoint tells us if the ending of that cycle is likely to be higher or lower than where it began. So if it begins down here, it's either going to be higher than where it began, or it's going to be lower than where it began. And it all depends on where the market is based at or around that midpoint. So if I was to draw this out, let me go ahead and just delete this off the screen quickly. If I was to draw this out, and I'm going to use this line here, we've got our midpoint here. If the market is traveling higher and it spends less time on the left-hand side going higher, and pushes lower and spends more time on the right-hand side going lower, then the cycle is going to end lower than where it began. Now, if it spends more time on the right-hand side going higher and less time going lower, then the cycle is going to end higher than where it began. So if we use this point here, okay, and this point here as our midpoints, the original hypothesis was that we would possibly have a midpoint a right translation top and then a higher low. Okay, that was always the hypothesis. However, let me clean up the chart. What we have here now is we have basically both these cycles spending more time going higher, which basically means that this side over here is going to be higher, okay? So once the market finds its low, it's going to be higher than where it began, okay? That is now set in stone. So now that we understand where we are, we could basically do whatever we want. We could just readjust all this. Doesn't really matter, it's not going to really change it. We're looking for a higher low. That's going to occur, okay? So wherever this cycle tops out, we're looking for a higher low. And then we move into the next 90-day period. The problem I have though, and this is not something that I would have experience in doing for Bitcoin, is that we're going to possibly skip this whole period here. Look, like if it pushes past December and doesn't create a higher low till after December, that's going to basically skew the 90-day cycle, and it could push us out to maybe 115 days or whatnot. And basically we just start the cycle again from where it begins, forming a low. However, we have to be open to the fact that this might be a complete inversion higher, and instead of forming a low, it just keeps pushing higher. Okay, that is a real possibility. So now that we've got that out of the way, we've caught up on where we are in the cycle. We understand we understand from the last video the 4-year cycle. We understand from this video the 90-day cycle. Well, now I'm going to show you something that I don't think anyone on YouTube has ever shown you, and that is how to track Bitcoin's top to tops. Okay. It's actually very simple. If you're familiar with the last video, I walked you through basically Bitcoin's 4-year cycle going bottom to bottom. Now, if you are not aware, if you weren't part of our forecasting service, basically the forecast for 2023, which I put out publicly, was basically for a top to occur at the end of 2022, possibly the start of 2023, and then the market's going to find a low, and the best buying opportunity was November 2023. Okay, you look at the market data since, and you can say, yes, that was the best buying opportunity. So I'm not dumb. I'm not new to this. Okay, I understand cycles, and I forecasted it and called it well in advance. Well, now I'm going to show you something that no one else has ever shown you, or at least not that I've seen publicly on YouTube, and that is Bitcoin's top to tops, because they also run in a 4-year sequence. And if we go ahead and pop in our 4-year cycle, we can see that Bitcoin runs top to top 4 years at a time. We can go back in time to the very start, and we'll see, can't go that far back unfortunately, we'll see that no matter what peak comes in, if we follow this red line, Bitcoin runs top to top, so top in December 2014, and then bottom to bottom, and top to top, and bottom to bottom, in a very interesting 4-year sine wave. So 4 years up, top to top, 4 years down, or bottom to bottom, okay? So that means you could ignore this positive sine wave going higher. Again, I don't think I've seen anyone talk about this. And what you'll want to be focusing on is basically when this sine wave higher is going to run out, because that's going to provide you the next best time frame for your top to top sequence. So that means that we have basically until the end of 2025 into 2026 for the next top. That provides us a top to top in 2025 to 2026, the very end of 2025 to the start of 2026. And then the low is then forecast around 27 to 28. Okay, basically the low comes roughly 1 year after the top. Basically 1 year after the top, okay? So once we get the top in, 1 year later, the market has found its low. Basically, okay, so there's a simple framework. If you were to just think, okay, the market's topped out, now we have 1 year falling prices. This does not take into account any other cycle. This is purely 4 years up, top to top, and then 4 years down from bottom to bottom. And that's going to be a basic framework that you could follow. Now, I still believe, or I still am strongly hypothesizing that possibly next year isn't going to play out as we think. Like, I could be completely wrong. I've just been looking at some other stuff, and I could be blindsiding myself. Keep in mind that we did forecast a low in November, so no matter where we are now or what we think into the future, we called the low in this time frame here. So if you did buy in at 15 grand or whatever, nobody really cares what happens next, right? You've more than doubled your money on Bitcoin. Again, not giving buy or sell signals. I'm just looking from a time perspective where things are going to occur. So that's all I have for this video. This is what everyone else is showing you. I'm going to be showing you different stuff, okay? I'm going to be showing you how to use the real cycles. My opinion is that this is overstretched. Every single thing that I'm looking at right now tells me that this is overstretched. I could be wrong, but I'm cautious. I'll talk to you soon.